1. The truth you don't want to look at, but must. Here is a truth sharp enough to cut and necessary enough to heal. You did not learn to overgive in adulthood. You were trained for it in childhood. The patterns haunting your relationships today were rehearsed in the small, trembling theater of your earliest years, before you knew what boundaries were, before you knew what self-respect meant, before you even had language. You were absorbing lessons in the quiet violence of unmet needs. You learned to read the weather of someone else's moods before you could read your own reflection. You learned to anticipate anger, soothe guilt, placate chaos. You learned to become emotionally selfless in a home that demanded your disappearance. Maybe it was a mother who only loved you when you were useful. Maybe it was a father whose silence felt like a storm. Maybe it was a family rule whispered but never spoken. Don't need too much. Don't take up space. Don't make anyone uncomfortable. So you learned to shrink. You learned to attune. You learned to give more than you had just to feel safe. And that, my dear, is how a taker recognizes you from across a room. Your wounds know their hunger. Your survival skills match their appetite. It is a choreography written long before you understood the steps. 2. The original wound, when love required self-erasure. Children make bargains to survive. This is one of the oldest. If I am easy, quiet, helpful, perfect, then maybe I won't be abandoned. You learn to negotiate for love with your own disappearance. You didn't call it abandonment then. You called it normal. You called it being a good child. You called it love. But what you really learned was this. Love equals self-sacrifice. Connection equals self-erasure. Belonging equals overfunctioning. Safety equals staying small. So when someone arrives in your adult life with an empty bucket and a sad story, your nervous system flares with familiarity. Their need feels like home. Not healthy home, but the home you were conditioned to survive. You mistake comfort for compatibility. You mistake intensity for intimacy. You mistake rescue missions for relationships. This isn't your fault, it's your wiring. And wiring can be rewired, but not while you're still blaming yourself for being too much or not enough. 3. The 3 wounds that create a lifelong magnet for takers. There are 3 core wounds that make a heart attract takers like moths to flame. Let's name them. Softly, clearly, without judgment. Because naming a wound is the first step to unbinding oneself from it. Wound 1. The worthiness scar. Somewhere along the way, you absorbed the lie. I must earn love. And so you tried, with perfect grades, with good manners, with emotional labor disguised as tenderness. You became addicted to being needed because being needed was the only time you felt valuable. Takers smell this wound instantly. They know you will work for crumbs. They know you will confuse exhaustion with devotion. Because nobody ever taught you that real love doesn't have a price tag and your worth was never up for negotiation. Wound 2. The savior complex seed. You were forced to grow up too soon. Maybe you became the emotional support animal of your own parents. Maybe you carried responsibilities too heavy for small shoulders. Maybe you learned to fix other people to avoid being broken yourself. You became the hero in households that needed healing. You became the adult in rooms full of children. You became the glue in families that never learned to hold themselves. And now, you are drawn to people who need saving because saving feels like purpose, because chaos feels like home, because drowning people remind you of childhood shorelines. But here's the painful liberation. You cannot save people who are committed to staying the same. Healing is a door only they can turn the handle of. Wound 3. The fear of being left fracture. You learned early that love is conditional and abandonment is always one wrong step away. So you cling, you overextend, you overgive. You contort yourself into the shape of someone else's expectation. You think boundaries cause abandonment. You think saying no causes rejection. You think protecting yourself means losing them. But here's the cosmic joke. People who leave because you had boundaries were only there to take advantage of your lack of them. You did not lose them. You lost the illusion of them. And that is grace in disguise. Trauma bonding, when your nervous system mistakes pain for love. Let us speak of something darker, something you have felt but never named. Trauma bonds. They form when your nervous system becomes addicted to inconsistency. Highs and lows, apologies and explosions, affection followed by withdrawal. Your brain confuses adrenaline with attachment. You start craving the people who hurt you because they are the only ones who ever made you feel anything. This is why you stay longer than you should. This is why leaving feels impossible. This is why your heart reaches for the very hands that wounded it. It is not stupidity. It is not weakness. It is biology. But biology is not destiny. You can rewrite the script. 5. The mirror you don't want to look into. Here is the part of the chapter most readers flinch at, but not you. You are brave enough for this truth. Takers come into your life because a part of you still believes you deserve them. Not consciously, not intentionally, but subconsciously, deeply, primitively, your nervous system gravitates toward the familiar wound. It is not the taker who repeats your past. It is you seeking a chance to rewrite it. But every time you try to heal a childhood wound through an adult relationship, you only deepen the wound. Your inner child does not need another project. She needs protection. From you, by you, for you. 6. Why overgivers always end up with undergivers. Because opposites attract, but wounds attach. You overgive because you fear losing people. They undergive because they know you fear it. You rush to apologize. They wait for you to. You over-explain. They under-communicate. You adjust. They remain as they are. You invest. They withdraw. You bleed. They drink. It is not love. It is an ecosystem of imbalance. And imbalance always collapses. But the collapse is your liberation. It is the fire that clears the forest. It is the earthquake that reveals the fault lines. It is the moment you realize, I am the one holding this dynamic together. And therefore, I am the one who can let it fall apart. 7. The ancestral story you've been living. What if I told you that your overgiving didn't start with you? What if the women before you gave until their backs broke? What if the men before you were taught to be stoic pillars instead of soft beings? What if entire bloodlines passed down the myth that love is sacrifice and devotion is depletion? You are not just healing yourself. You are ending a generational script. You are breaking a lineage of emotional labor disguised as loyalty. You are the ancestor your descendants will thank. 8. The first step out. The pain of seeing clearly. Awareness hurts. It rips away the illusions that once cushioned your suffering. Seeing why you overgive feels like betrayal. Betrayal of your family, your history, your younger self. But it is not betrayal. It is absolution. It is reclamation. It is the first breath after years underwater. And it always starts with a single realization. This pattern is not love, and I deserve something that doesn't demand the death of me. 9. You are not broken. You were trained to forget yourself. Every overgiver has a missing origin story. Let me remind you of yours. You are not here to be useful. You are not here to be a savior. You are not here to be a sponge for someone else's sorrow. You are here to feel, to grow, to thrive, to bloom untamed. to guard your flame like the sacred thing it is. Your empathy is beautiful. Your compassion is holy. Your giving is a gift. But they were never meant to be your prison. 10. The sacred pivot, from overgiving to overflowing. There is a version of you that doesn't chase, a version of you that doesn't bleed, a version of you that doesn't mistake depletion for intimacy. She is waiting for you on the other side of this chapter, a version of you who knows love flows both ways, or it is not love. A version of you who protects what is fragile and honors what is precious. A version of you who gives from overflow, not from wounds. And when you meet her, when you finally inhabit her, your entire life changes. Takers stop being magnets. You stop being prey. Love stops being labor. It becomes reciprocity. It becomes ease. It becomes truth.